Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How are you doing today on this Friday?
I'm doing good. This is a long weekend, the President's weekend.
Indeed. Gonna enjoy this nice 3-day weekend.
No football.
There's no football until August at this point.
Yeah, well, there's the draft, and there's
That's true. The football games, though.
The League New Year, all kinds of trades and free agency coming up, so we'll have a lot to talk about.
Absolutely. March, new league year around the corner. Sometime in May, we get the schedule drop. Of course, April is filled with the draft. We'll be doing that the last 3 weeks of April. We'll be breaking down every Tuesday. We'll give you 10 or 11 of our first-round picks until we reach the final number of, actually, I think this year, this year we'll have 32. A couple teams don't have first-round picks, so stay tuned for that. A couple, like the Jets have 2 picks in the first round. I think the Rams may have 2 first-round picks as well, so there's a lot to break down in April, but we're still in February, which means post-Super Bowl rumors, potential quarterbacks coming back, and, of course, the laughingstock of the NFL, the Cleveland Browns. We'll break down all of that and get into that. But most notably, let's talk about the recent news of Derek Carr. We've mentioned it a little bit, but we haven't really focused on it. But during the latest episode of Derek Carr's podcast, he basically answered the question of if he is coming back. And this is what he said, direct quote here. Would I do it? Yes. Would I do it for anybody? Absolutely not. I'd have to be healthy. I want to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And obviously, that's a tough thing to find. That's hard to do. That's not easy. So ultimately, Derek Carr potentially is planning a comeback. He is still technically under contract with the New Orleans Saints. So if he were to look elsewhere, they would need to force a trade. So my question to you is, if Derek Carr gets out there, if he says, you know what, I'm pulling a Phillip Rivers, I'm pulling a Tom Brady, I'm coming back out of retirement, how big of a market do you think Derek Carr actually has?
I think there'll be interest in him. He abruptly retired back last May. When he tore his labrum in his shoulder. And that's healed all up. Now I guess he feels good. And now he seems to have a change of heart and may want to come back out of retirement if he encounters an interested party or parties with the right situation and coaching staff. There aren't that many quarterbacks with his experience available. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. To get him requires a trade, as you mentioned, with the Saints. It's doubtful he'll go back to the Saints or the Raiders. I mean, the Saints have Tyler Shugg, and the Raiders have the first-round pick, and they're definitely going to take Fernando Mendoza. They're into a new start there. I think there are a number of potential landing spots for him, but, he wants to win a Super Bowl, so... I think the Steelers have a habit of enlisting mercenary veterans. They don't really have a young candidate at the position. They didn't really have anybody. I think they drafted a rookie quarterback last year, but they're way down there and nobody that anybody knows. So they really don't have anybody. They want to contend after winning the NFC North with Rodgers last year, and they have DK Metcalf. So, they've got a receiver to throw the ball to when he's not fighting with the fans. The Steelers and Mike McCarthy may want to go with Rodgers, though, to have him return, who ranked, he didn't rank that badly when I was looking at the quarterback rankings, getting ready for our topic on this later on. He was like 15th in the NFL reference guide, looking at that data. So Rodgers didn't really have that bad a year last year. They need to bring in another top-tier receiver, though, I think, if they want to have any interest from Derek Carr. Yeah, another one, and I think the most realistic one in Derek Carr's mind would be the Vikings. They bring him in to compete with J.J. McCarthy if he thinks he can beat him out. He's a proven vet, capable of handling the job for sure, probably has more years left than Kirk Cousins if all goes well. They have the wide receiver core. They have a lot of talent there with Jefferson, Addison, and Hawkinson. Is he willing to compete with McCarthy for the job? I think that would be the question. The Vikings have a salary cap issue and may not be able to pay Carr what others might. And I'm sure he wants a nice salary. The Jets, they're desperate for help. Fields didn't work out. Taylor has injury issues, and Cook is one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year when he did play. He would immediately be the starter for sure. Comes to a big market. He flirted with the Jets in 2023 when he and Rodgers were free agents looking for new home. Actually, Rodgers wasn't a free agent. He had to be traded. And Carr had been released by the Raiders at that point. Rodgers ultimately went to the Jets, and as we know, Carr went to the Saints. He'll want a big salary to walk into that mess for sure, and probably deservedly so. Final team, I think, would be the Dolphins. They expected to move off of Tua. They have a chain in Waddle, although they may trade Waddle. But they're definitely Hill is not going to be there. A proven starter could maybe resurrect their offense a little bit. It's sunny Miami. Be a nice place to play. Needs to be convinced of Halfley's vision. They cleaned house in Miami with a new head coach and a new general manager, both from Green Bay. I think it'll be hard to make it work financially with the current $16 million cap deficit that the Dolphins have, and they haven't even gotten off of Tua yet. He'll want a big salary to play for Miami, who has many question marks. I think Miami will go full rebuild and start with Ewers. So I think the best chance for Carr, if he thinks Super Bowl is in the near future for him, would be the Vikings.
Well, and that's a big question. What are they going to do? Because you think Kirk Cousins, now potentially Derek Carr. Again, for the Vikings, I'm always saying, what kind of competition do you want? Maybe that is fair competition because it's been a full season since Derek Carr has thrown a pass. Actually, a little bit more than a season because he was so banged up. Again, it's a question of what competition. If you want legitimate competition, then maybe Derek Carr falls into that spot. Experience-wise, no, Derek Carr wins. Kirk Cousins, same thing, but Kirk Cousins has played, obviously, sooner than that. I think ultimately, no, I don't think Derek Carr should come back. I just don't think it would work. I think that the first year would be really, really brutal. So it depends, first off, what are the Saints going to ask for him and what do they think his value is? If you could get it for a 6th or a 7th round pick, kind of what the Patriots did with Rob Gronkowski and just asked the Buccaneers for a 7th round pick, and that was it. It turned out to be a horrible deal for the Patriots because Gronk won another Super Bowl and was actually really effective the few years he was there. So, again, what's the value? You don't want to overpay for a quarterback who hasn't played in a season plus. I do think that if he does want to play again, he already said that he turned down, he had to say no a couple times so far. I think the Jets, because that was a big one when he was out there before he came over to the Saints. The Jets was a huge one, and at the time I thought that would have been a great pick because I thought it would have been cheaper than Aaron Rodgers. But I think at this point the Jets have absolutely nobody, so if Derek Carr wants to compete, well, the Jets are probably the worst spot possible, maybe tied with the Cleveland Browns. But I just think, let's think about this really, really quickly. Derek Carr he says he wants to go to a contender. Let's be honest, and I'll bring you in for this. How many teams are legitimately contenders who are looking for a quarterback that we actually feel confident in?
The Vikings.
Is that it? And they trust in J.J. McCarthy. They just want a quarterback for competition, not necessarily to take him to the promised land. Obviously, that's the end goal. But their whole vision right now is we want to boost our second-year quarterback going into year 3 because he was so bad in some big-time spots, and he was so banged up. So hopefully, health-wise, the competition makes him healthier maybe, makes him play better. No one's really saying, you know what, let's go, J.J. McCarthy 2026, or okay, we're letting JJ sit. We're going to bring in a new quarterback. No, they want this competition thing. And if it's truly a competition, then they're just hoping that whoever wins the competition can lead them far into the playoffs. I think realistically, how many true contenders are we seeing? The Steelers?
Don't you think the Vikings are a contender?
In that conference? No, I don't.
Well,
I really don't.
Sometimes 3 teams make the playoffs from a conference.
Right, but if we're talking about legitimate contending, I think the Eagles, I think the Cowboys, Chicago, Green Bay, and Detroit. Carolina was just in the playoffs, but I do think Atlanta will take them over, so I'm saying Atlanta wins that division. Seattle, Rams, San Francisco. I just listed 9 teams. 9 out of the 9 out of the 16, I think, are definite playoff
I think
teams.
the Vikings.
Actually, like,
I think
contender-ish.
the Vikings would have been in the playoffs this year if they'd had decent quarterback play.
I would agree.
Right, because their defense is very good, right, and their offense has the weapons. Except for the quarterback has to be at least a good game manager, and they didn't have that at all. So if they could get that, I think Derek Carr could at least be a good game manager.
But how do we know? Because we've seen him play, and it's like a bunch of turnovers. I know he was all right with the Saints, but they couldn't win any games. They went 5-5.
He got hurt. He was hurt a lot there.
But he was out there
up.
trying to sling it.
Yeah. And they had some good games with them, but the Saints, they weren't that good a team when he went there. They weren't that good.
Again, it depends on what you're looking at. Is Derek Carr going to lead you to a Super Bowl? No. Is he going to maybe be a bridge quarterback and stabilize your future? If you're trying to be 9-8, well, then the perfect answer is the Pittsburgh Steelers, because he could do exactly that. If you want to continue the no losing record,
I agree. The Steelers could be an option, but if his criteria is get to the Super Bowl, I don't think the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl next year. Right? I mean, they're just not. Their defense is not. They've got a lot of money invested in a bunch of old players and or players that are banged up. I mean, they have T.J. Watt, right? And he had a collapsed lung this year. I mean, that's bad. That's a serious injury, and he didn't have the kind of year that he's had in the past. He's on the downswing now, and so on the offensive side, they have Metcalf, who likes to fight with the fans. And then they, beyond him, what do they have? J.J. Smith-Schuster? Come on. They don't have, they need to pick up a wide receiver, definitely, to complement Metcalf. Their running game.
They don't have
right? Their running game, average.
MVS, I think.
And it should have been much better with Arthur Smith there. That was his forte, supposedly. It wasn't that good. I don't know. I think that if it was a choice between the Vikings and the Steelers, I'm sure, and Carr had the choice, he would take the Vikings. I'm pretty sure he would go there. I think he's pretty sure he could beat out J.J. McCarthy for the job.
Yeah.
And I think the Vikings would be more interested in him than Cousins in a way, because he's got more gas in the tank. If McCarthy doesn't come through in the competition and Carr plays well, he's a multi-year quarterback, whereas Cousins, it's kind of hit or miss. He's going to be 38 next year. How old is Carr now?
Derek Carr at this current moment is 34.
34.
He'll turn 35 before the next season.
So he's got 3 more seasons, possibly. So,
are we sure about that? People wanted him out at the end of the Saints run. They thought he was washed and done. In 10 games, he threw for 2,000 yards.
Yeah.
He averaged 214 and a half yards per game.
Vikings have much better talent on offense than the Saints did then. The Saints have gotten better, but they have much better talent now than they did. Right? I think they have Olave, right? He's pretty good. And,
Well, the issue is everybody's older now. Like Alvin Kamara with Drew Brees was pretty good. Alvin Kamara now, he's, health issues. Yeah. I think Tyler Shuck, I think is the best option for the Saints anyway.
I do too. I agree.
Really, there's only 2 teams. There's the Steelers, who are probably going to go for Aaron Rodgers, and there's the Vikings, who are trying to bring in competition, but it looks like Kirk Cousins may want to be there.
Well, there's the Jets and Dolphins,
and also,
but they aren't going to be.
No, the Jets and Dolphins
Super Bowl contenders, that's for sure.
I'll say this about the Vikings, though. If you want to choose between the 2 options, Kirk Cousins is going to be. You don't need to give up anything besides money. You're going to need to trade with the Saints to go out and get Derek Carr.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be wasting draft capital.
Yeah. So maybe Carr is a long shot.
It's not a long shot. It's just you have to think about how it makes sense for the NFL, like for Derek Carr. He's going to go out there and try to find a contender. It's either he changes the word contender into
the problem there is
team.
The true contenders right now, aside, I'd say, from the Vikings, they already have quarterbacks.
Right, exactly. That's my point. So you can't go out and say that I want a contender, because that was probably last year. The Colts were a pretty decent team looking for a quarterback, and they still are. But it's a question of, are you trying to find, or like, can the Colts beat out that Texans defense? Can they beat out a growing Jaguars team? The Titans, you think, are going to win 7 games? Or, on the hopeful side, 7
Competitive
games.
in 7 games.
Competitive in 7 games. Realistically, I think we gave him 5. 5 legitimate chances with 2 maybe.
But the
you
Titans
steal
have
one.
they have Ward.
Right. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like last year or the year before probably would have been the year. Taking off, I understand
No,
you
he
want to
was
get
hurt.
healthy. Yeah, I completely understand. Actually, yeah, it looked like he wouldn't have been ready for the season. That was the biggest thing. Derek Carr probably would have had to miss some games. The Browns? They're not contenders at all. But again, then we have to demote what he's saying to just quarterback needy teams.
I'm sure he doesn't want to go there.
Is Derek Carr above Kirk Cousins,
He'd have to
Aaron
write an
Rodgers?
essay. He might have to write an essay to get there, to go there.
We'll talk about that monstrosity next. But again, if we put Derek Carr in the pot, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, does he pass any of those 3 quarterbacks that I just listed? I don't think so.
I don't think he passes Aaron Rodgers because Mike McCarthy's the coach of the Steelers now. I think
But he
hasn't
hasn't thrown a pass in over a year, and he's recovering from a labrum injury and an AC joint injury that he dealt with each of his 2 years in New Orleans.
But he's been healing up from that stuff for a long time now, almost a year.
Exactly. So it's like the Phillip Rivers thing. He's like the Phillip Rivers thing. Has he thrown a pass?
I think he can throw it better than Phillip Rivers.
I don't know. The last couple of games he was slinging. That first game against the Seahawks was ugly. It was a sitting duck out there. Here's the thing. I don't think Derek Carr, it would be fun to see him back in the NFL again. It's fun to see a bunch of these quarterbacks come back. I enjoyed watching Phillip Rivers play. If you put him into a pot with Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, and Daniel Jones, all who have played last year, will he be above any of those quarterbacks? If the answer is no, then take the word contender out of what you're looking for. You're looking for a quarterback-needy team at that point.
Yeah.
And also one that doesn't have a high enough draft pick to maybe select their future quarterback.
If he changes his criteria, then the Jets and the Dolphins come back into the mix.
The Cardinals go into the mix as well.
Maybe, yeah.
The Raiders potentially, just throwing them out
I don't
there.
think the Raiders, because they're going to...
Veteran piece for Fernando Mendoza. Or maybe veteran piece for Ty Simpson.
I think he wants to be a starter.
I would agree, as does Kirk Cousins. So it'd be interesting to see there. All right, let's get into this one. I feel like the last 3 or 4 weeks we've had to talk about this team, but during a recent chat with Front Office Sports, Haslam Sports Group president Dave Jenkins spoke about his own team, saying, quote, the Browns are simply really easy to pick on right now, largely because the club hasn't enjoyed a consistent run of success. But like any business, any industry, the more data and information we have accessible to inform our decision-making, we should be more successful. Here's the big question. We've talked about the Browns probably more than I thought going into this year, and now post with the Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Kevin Stefanski whole fiasco, and the draft and everything like that last year back in April. What's the likelihood that the Browns have any crumbs of success, any light at the end of the tunnel, any success can you foresee for the Cleveland Browns in 2026?
I think it's low probability. Is it out of the question? Maybe not, but I think it's real low probability. This guy, Jenkins, the Browns president, said the Browns are easy to pick on right now. Well, they've been easy to pick on for quite a while. He said, but trust the process. Come on, give me a break. He's confident that the patient process Jimmy and Dee Haslam have applied to their midterm portfolio, their multi-team portfolio that includes the Bucs and the Columbus Crew is going to yield fruit. Browns have missed the playoffs 12 of the 14 seasons since 2012 when the Haslams purchased the team. I mean, how patient are we supposed to be, and how are we supposed to believe in a process when 12 out of the 14 seasons they've owned the team, they haven't made the playoffs? They fired Kevin Stefanski, who was the only coach that they even got him to the playoffs. Those 2 playoff games where he was the coach, and that was relatively recent. This Jenkins guy's been the team president for past 22 years. He helped the Haslams launch the Haslam Sports Group in 2020 after they bought the Crew. Building winners in the mid-tier market, I think, like Cleveland, has escaped him and the Haslams for sure. Their failure is magnified in the NFL, where every decision is under a magnifying glass of the media and the fans. And the Browns have made more mistakes than any other team, I think, in their attempts to build a winner. The Browns recently hired Todd Monken to replace Stefanski using what most believe was a very unorthodox search process, that included personality tests, written essays, completing homework assignments for the first and second interviews. The Browns are easy to pick on because, according to Jenkins, because they have not been able to string together a consistent run of success. They haven't had any run of success, really. Just those 2 playoff wins that Stefanski oversaw. I mean, they haven't had a consistency. There hasn't been as consistent losing. They believe more data and information can help them be more successful. Yeah, I think that's true. Gathering more information, being more data-driven. That's the way of the future. That includes, in his mind, background checks, talking to people, exploring references. What are the offensive and defensive philosophies of a coach? Well, those are things that everybody's been asking for years. I don't think that's any new information or any new data. That's stuff that people have been. That's what every team does when they search for a coach. They were also criticized for their plan to move out of Cleveland and reached a deal with Cleveland after suing one another, reaching a $100 million agreement to move to a $2.4 billion stadium in Brook Park, Ohio in 2029. That stadium will be about 10 miles from Cleveland. You've got to, according to Jenkins, and this is really deep, insightful. You want to listen to this, Nate. You've got to find experts that know roster development, player development, from the coaching perspective, and let them operate. The culture comes from the top of the organization. This is from Jimmy Haslam. The culture's coming from him. He's a kook. You have to find great people to build the roster, coach the roster, and drive the end result. Well, that's really deep stuff, man. I got to tell you, I'm glad to have heard that from Jenkins. To me, he's just a yes man who's been in that system for too many years. The Browns need a reset, and the ownership is not not so much the Knicks now. Dolan has found a way. The Knicks are much better now, but I see Haslam kind of in that same vein as not going anywhere with him as the owner. Just like the Jets really don't seem to be going anywhere with Woody Johnson as the owner.
I agree.
Maybe they should just sell a team.
Wow. Strong words.
Yeah.
The bottom left here, you can see that my nickname, I decided to name the topic bug there, the Cleveland Clowns, which is a nickname I gave them over the last few years. The Cleveland Browns, obviously, shocking. You haven't had a string of success. I wonder why. Let's start with the obvious. If you talk about roster development and all of that, how is your GM still there then? Andrew Berry, roster development. You have one of the greatest defenders of all time in Myles Garrett. Your defense is always consistently great. Your offense, you couldn't figure it out if it smacked you upside the head. Let's start with the most key position of it all, the most crucial position. Have you ever gotten it right? Let's go all the way back to the turn of the century since 2000. The Cleveland Browns have had the most amount of quarterbacks in the NFL, and I have every single one listed here. 41 quarterbacks have started for the Cleveland Browns since 2000. 41. I think that's about 10 more than the next highest team. 41. And I guarantee you, 95% of NFL fans can't name half this list. Because, to be honest, I haven't been alive for a lot of these guys' starts. So that's also something. I did not follow football for most of these guys' starts. So 41 starting quarterbacks. But this, talk about the team. It's a team game, right? Not only one position, although your classic phrase, please repeat it for the audience. Quarterbacks
handle the ball on every play.
Thank you. But no, it's a team sport. It's football. There's 53 guys that are starting. Well, how about this? Let's go to team rankings. How has the team done in of itself since 2000? They've been one of, if not the worst NFL franchise since 2000. The least amount of wins, the fewest points per game, 27th in points per game allowed. Point differential, dead last. Total yards per game, which is total offense, they're 31st. The Texans, by the way, are worse than that somehow. Total yards per game allowed, thank God for that defense, they're 23rd. And since 2000, they've had 3 playoff appearances. They've been the worst franchise when it comes to success. They've been the worst run franchise in terms of front office. They have not been able to figure out quarterback, offensive line. They did for running back for a little while, especially with Nick Chubb as of late. Wide receiver, they had a couple decent guys. Josh Gordon couldn't get off weed, so he kept having to be suspended. They had Jerry Jeudy for a hot second, and he can't seem to handle the ball properly. Let's see. Any other big... you had... Jarvis Landry and OBJ, that imploded in of itself. David Njoku saying he doesn't want to re-sign this offseason after 9 seasons, wilting away on your team. The Browns are complete jokes. And we just had a Kevin Stefanski, Shedeur Sanders sabotage rumor. You had Dylan Gabriel starting out there as well. You had Joe Flacco in there. It's been a complete mess. Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson, who's still on the roster, by the way. I mean, the Browns are just very, very poorly run. This is not about restarting. It could be about selling the franchise and maybe going to 31 teams, because having this team out there, it's a free win for 95% of the NFL teams out there.
Yeah, well, the Browns aren't going away, I don't think. But
they
think,
did for a little while and returned to 1999.
Yeah, I think that with Monken as their coach, he's in a very difficult spot. You look at his quarterbacks. It's Gabriel and Sanders, and then Deshaun Watson. I guarantee you Deshaun Watson's going to get a very hard look. He's going to have a chance to play because he's the one that has the most experience. He's the one that has had some success when he was in Houston, and he's the one that they're paying a fortune to.
A decade ago.
So they're going to give him a chance. You wait and see. That's my prediction.
Well, they're paying him too much money to not give him a chance. But the realistic, the outcome of this is, as the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, he's 9-10 with 61% completion percentage. He has 3,300 yards. That's over 3 seasons, I might add. He has 19 touchdowns, 12 picks, passer rating of 80. He averages 177 passing yards a game.
Mm-hmm.
He is not a good quarterback.
Well, I agree, but look what they have on the roster. I think that it'll be another rebuild if they let Sanders or Gabriel play.
It's a rebuild. They've been rebuilding for 20 years.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. It's a continuation of the rebuild.
Their best quarterback was... I want to bring up... You tell me, how many of these names do you recognize?
I've heard of many of them. I think that...
I've heard of many of them as well. But
I think that it was 13.
A couple of these guys are offensive coordinators.
It was 12 quarterbacks ago that Baker Mayfield was there. There have been 12 quarterbacks since Baker Mayfield was traded.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous,
well, I don't know since it's traded, but this is like year order. A couple of these guys are offensive coordinators or coaches. You have Ken Dorsey, who was OC of the Bills a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. McCown.
Yeah.
He's a coach.
We have Colt McCoy, Luke McCoy, Brian Hoyer, Brandon Whedon, Jason Campbell, Jake Delhomme is over there, Greg Kowski, Tyrod Taylor, Deshaun Kaiser, RG3,
Johnny
McCown,
Manziel.
Johnny Manziel's out there.
I wonder whatever happened to him.
Trent Dilfer, Jeff Garcia, Tim
I haven't heard
Couch.
anything of this. The first.
Doug Peterson is on this list. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They haven't figured out quarterback for 25 years, 26 years. And now they're going into a situation where Shedeur's a 5th-round pick, did not look great. He had out of Browns rookie quarterbacks since the turn of the century, he was the 2nd worst one. The only other one was Johnny Manziel, who had a problem with drinking. That's the 2nd lowest QBR.
Whatever happened to him?
He's in media now. He did a documentary a couple years ago. He also played, I think, arena football or like fan play called arena football, something like that. But like 41 quarterbacks have started a single game or more for the Cleveland Browns since 2000. 41.
That's amazing.
It's ridiculous. So we talk about, they need to rebuild. When have they ever figured it out and then fell apart?
They've been rebuilding.
Like the Jets. They've always tried to get back a level of success because they are a New York team. They have a big market. They were the most populated stadiums this season. I think they were like number 4 and number 5. But again, they're trying to get back a lick of success. The Browns have had no success.
Yeah.
They've had 2 years. One with Baker Mayfield and the defense beat the crap out of an old Big Ben. And 2023 where Joe Flacco was throwing it all over the place, I'm pretty sure. So What do you want me to do here? There's not for the Browns. Can the Browns find
New
success
ownership.
next season? The answer is no.
New ownership.
I don't think
that's what's needed.
How about just have this new GM? If you're looking for a guy to build up a team, the defense is fine. How about the offense? You have a wide receiver who can't catch.
Well,
Isaiah Bond, I like, but again, he was a young. I like the rookie tight end this past year, Fannin.
You have a kooky owner. That's
who
an
ripped
issue.
on a potential starting quarterback next year that's on his roster, in Deshaun Watson. I appreciate the fact that he admitted it was a big mistake. Of course, that's not. You always think that's not a great look for an owner to rip on his own players.
He's got 2 years left.
That is one of the worst contracts, or maybe the worst contract in NFL history. It
is.
He set the market.
It may be the worst
contract. I think it is. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, we're bringing back a classic. It's the boom or bust. It's the bounce quarterback. You give your top 3 quarterbacks for which quarterback's going to have the biggest boom next year. We got a lot to talk about as well, so stay tuned for that right after this 30-second break.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security starts with a click.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So, Fox Sports decided to release the NFL coaching hot seat rankings. And who leads in the rankings of the hottest seats in the NFL? Number 1 is Aaron Glenn of the New York Jets. Number 2 is 1 year removed Super Bowl winner Nick Sirianni of the Philadelphia Eagles. And number 3 is Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles. Number 4, by the way, Dave Canales. And number 5 is Zac Taylor. So I think here's the big question. We've done this over the past. We've had our own discussion about it. I talked about Sean McDermott this postseason, him having one of the hottest seats because of the expectations. My question to you is, for 2026, which coach do you think has the hottest seat?
Well, I don't think Dave Canales is on the hottest seat. I mean, they did have some level of success, even though it was a roller coaster. They did make the playoffs, and in the playoff game, they were very competitive. They almost beat the Rams. So I don't think that Canales is on the hot seat. I do think Zac Taylor is on the hot seat, but actually I think that before I get to him, I think Dan Quinn is going to be on the hot seat. The Commanders' 2025 season was ruined by injuries, including Jaden Daniels, but he did lead the Commanders to the NFC Championship in 2024. He just purged his staff, including Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not sure why he fired him, who got credit for helping. I think he had a big role in Jaden Daniels' Rookie of the Year season, and they made the NFC Championship game. Well, why would you fire him? I don't get that. I think that, as they say sometimes, when you purge the staff, it's just to save your own skin. And I think that may be what Quinn was thinking. How will Daniels respond to a new OC? I think that's a big question. How will they fix the defense? It's been just terrible under Quinn both years. Quinn led the Falcons to, this is the thing that I think people will be looking at. Quinn led the Falcons to the Super Bowl, only to lose in a historic fashion to the Patriots. After that, the Falcons, they fell apart. They never made the playoffs again under Quinn. Did the same thing just happen when they made the NFC Championship game, and now they're just on the downhill swing? I don't know. I think they're going to look to bring in, a lot of young talent. They want to get faster. I've got more to say about that in our next topic, but I think he's on the hot seat. I put him at number 5. At number 4, I agree, Zac Taylor. He's still around for 2 reasons, I think. He can't be blamed for the Burrow injuries, and the Bengals are too cheap to pay him off and get rid of him. So I think if Burrow is healthy all season and they don't make the playoffs, he's gone for sure. Well, the Bengals are cheap. They gave big contracts to Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. At times, Burrow has indicated he's not happy. So there's a lot of issues there. And I think this is Zac Taylor's year. He's got to make the playoffs this year. If Burrow is healthy the whole season, or I think he's definitely gone. I agree with the Fox Sports on the top 3 here. Todd Bowles, the Bucs, the team loaded with talent. They say it was loaded, but I'm not so sure it was really loaded with talent. They couldn't win in the weakest division in the NFL in 2025. He's 35-33 in 4 years as a coach, despite 3 playoff berths. Arguably has a quarterback and the players to do better than that. But I think this year in 2025, the reason they didn't make the playoffs was with Baker Mayfield fell apart in the last part of the season there. He made so many mistakes, throwing interceptions at key times in the fourth quarter when they were driving to win the game. Injuries hurt the Bucs last year, but that's not really the only reason they lost 7 of their last 9 games and missed the playoffs. I think Baker Mayfield played a big role in that. And he may be hurt too, because he got hurt in the Rams game there, and he actually missed the next game, and then he came back. He might have come back too soon. He called the team out. I think another reason that he's on the hot seat, he called the team out after one of those losses late in the season, and he really went after them in the media, and they didn't respond. They really didn't play any better. It was just a downhill. So I agree he's on the hot seat. I agree Sirianni's on the hot seat. I think despite the 59-26 record, 3 division titles, 2 trips to the Super Bowl, and a championship in 4 years, most people would die for that. Owner Jeff Lowry, he's different. He wants big results every year, and he's very disappointed in the 2 wasted seasons of 23 and 25 when they kind of, one year, 23, the defense collapsed down the stretch, and 25, the offense collapsed down the stretch. I think there's a lot of internal frustration about his staffing choices, and at times the way he manages a difficult locker room with A.J. Brown there. I don't know what will happen to him. We'll have to watch when the new league year begins whether the Eagles decide to part ways with him. But I think mostly the late fade and the playoff failures in 23 and 25 are reasons that put him on the hot seat. I think the Eagles are likely to win the NFC East again in 2026. If they don't advance deep into the playoffs, I think they will likely make the change. And then finally, Aaron Glenn. I mean, there's a good case that he should have been canned and one and done at the end of this season with a 3-14 records. Johnson showing surprising patience and letting Glenn fire most of his coaching staff instead. But as I said previously when we were talking about Quinn, it's usually telling because it's usually a last-ditch effort when you can all your coaches to try to keep your own job. He has a poor relationship with the New York media. He didn't get along well with them. Still has no option at quarterback. A defense which was good under Saleh fell apart under Glenn, and I think that's his biggest failure. I'm very upset by the fan base, and next year Mike Tomlin's in the mix pool of candidates. So Aaron Glenn, he needs to step up and do something, show some big improvement in 26, or I believe he's gone.
Well, we agree on the first one, obviously. And yes, the number one hottest seat in the NFL is Aaron Glenn because culture builder, defense. Well, culture was terrible, and you had no defense. The offense was abysmal, but the Jets' offense has always been abysmal for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah, you made a good point. There was a report out there saying that Glenn purged his entire staff in order to save his job. Well, now his staff is built by Thomas Merkel, who's the offensive assistant, Bill Musgrave, who's the quarterback coach, Al Netter, who's the assistant offensive line coach, Alfredo Roberts, the tight end coach, Rex Ryan, family member, Seth Ryan is the pass game coordinator, and Matthew Sargent is the offensive assistant. That offensive staff is horrible for a quarterback that may be a veteran, or that might be a rookie when they reach at the number 2 spot potentially, or they may draft it. I believe they had the 15th pick or the 16th pick. Maybe you go out and get a quarterback there. But, Aaron Glenn is not surviving this season. Really. You look at that schedule. We showed it in the past before. That schedule is not that easy whatsoever. So Aaron Glenn is probably going to get fired by the middle of next year, especially if that defense goes nowhere like it did this year. My number 2 has to be Zac Taylor, though. How many times are going to miss the playoffs with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow and and Chase Brown? Also on top, let's just throw this in here. After you lost to the Jets the locker room literally imploded on itself, and you had the offense, especially Chase Brown, taking shots at the defense for not getting a single stop. I mean, if that's not just a destruction of the locker room and a head coach not being able to have its grips on the locker room, I don't know what is at that point. So I think Zac Taylor has to be number 2. You have to make the playoffs. And I understand, yes, you can't control Joe Burrow's injury. But let's also realize you alienated your best pass rusher who is going to leave in this offseason and probably sign somewhere else. You, Shamar Stewart, the guy you wanted to replace Trey Hendrickson, you had a contract dispute early in the year, and he actually didn't play that well. So also Duke Tobin, who's in charge of player personnel, he hasn't been that great either, but they have full confidence. I don't know about that. I really don't. Because the team is, besides Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and a little bit of Chase Brown and Joe Burrow, obviously, name me another really, really good, consistent player. Nothing really comes to mind, to be honest with you. So I think Zac Taylor, I think he is probably number 2. And number 3, I agree with you, it's going to be Dan Quinn here. The defense, he's a defensive coach. Their defense was dead last year in total defense. He decided to keep Jaden Daniels out there in the blowout loss against the Lions. What happened to it? He, I think, dislocates or fractures his elbow. He sent him out there in a blowout loss. You kept him out there. And then, if I'm not mistaken, he put him back out there, and he got dinged again. So then he shut him down at the end of the year. Not a great look if you're the head coach. And on top of the fact, you took defensive play calling away from your DC last year, and now you're calling the defense. Well, if your defense is no longer good, yikes. I don't think Dan Quinn survives. So I think for me, it's Aaron Glenn, Zac Taylor, Dan Quinn. Those are my top 3. I think Zac Taylor, I'm shocked he hasn't been fired already. Thank God for Joe Burrow being Joe Burrow and having Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Aaron Glenn apparently has no strength building a cohesive unit around him. You bring back Frank Reich. You're going for experience or you're going for talent? Because Frank Reich didn't even last 1 year with the Carolina Panthers.
He was the head coach, though.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So now you're bringing him in as the OC for the Jets
yeah.
to call with what offensive players? Breece Hall, he was pissed off. Garrett Wilson, I'm sure, wants out.
I would say Frank Reich is more attuned to a passing game than a rushing game.
Yeah, but who's your quarterback? You trusting Justin Fields or Tyrod Taylor?
It's going to be
there?
one of these journeymen that are out there that we've been talking about here. I think maybe it's Kirk Cousins, maybe it's Derek Carr, maybe it's Malik Willis, maybe it's Y.A. Tittle. I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe it's Kyler Murray.
Could be an option.
I mean, that's going to cost them a lot of money, and it's going to look like the past, when they brought in Brett Favre and they brought in Aaron Rodgers, and now it's Kyler Murray. And I don't know. I just think
Justin Fields.
I think Aaron Glenn is gone, and I think that Woody Johnson should sell a team.
I would probably agree with you on that. I think a lot of people
He's
would
had
as
nothing but failure.
Yeah.
Except the 2 years with Rex Ryan there. That's about it.
Also, first year with Todd Bowles, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think they won a bunch of that year. I think Brandon Marshall was also a very key piece of that Jets team that year as well. All right, I think it's time now for a topic that we've done in the past, the bounce quarterback, as we called it. You're going to give everybody out there and me your top 3 quarterbacks who you think is going to do really, really well next year and go from not great this year and in 2026 have the biggest boom. So let's begin with the number 3 quarterback on the boom list.
Okay, before we get to that, I just want to go through the potential candidates were, in my estimation. There were quite a few, actually, based on using 2025 rankings from Pro Football Reference. Cam Ward was one, and he played 17 games. He wound up ranked 17th. He was higher ranked than I thought. His passer rating 80.2 and his QBR 33.2. That's where you think he could improve a lot there on the QBR. But given how high he ranked already, and a passer rating of 80.2, I couldn't pick him. Tua, he played 14 games, so he was ranked 22nd. He had an 88.5 passer rating, which is higher than I thought, but his QBR down at 37.5. But still, with a passer rating of 88.5, I couldn't put him on the list either. J.J. McCarthy, he played 10 games. He's ranked number 33. His passer rating 72.6 and the QBR of 35.6. He's a potential for my list. And Shedeur Sanders played 8 games, ranked 35th, passer rating 68.1, QBR of 18.9. He was a potential candidate, but I couldn't put him on there because I don't think he's going to play next year. Ooh. I think that it's going to be Deshaun Watson. So he may get in there, but he's not going to play a lot. So I don't know as he'll. And it's going to be tough to play as poorly in terms of the stats as he did this year. So if he does get in there, he probably will beat these numbers, but I'm not sure. I don't think he will. Jaden Daniels only played 7 games. We just talked about Dan Quinn being on the hot seat. He ranked 36th, 88.1 passer rating, 44.7. He's a potential candidate. Kyler Murray, 5 games, ranked 39th, 88.6 passer rating, 47.2. I didn't put him on there because of his passer rating. And Quinn Evers, he only played 3 games, but ranked number 46, 85.5 passer rating, 32.8 QBR. So I've kind of given away a little bit of where I am with this, but let's go to the rankings now.
All right, let's go. With number 3 here, who do you got as your number 3 boom quarterback?
J.J. McCarthy. And I think that he was hurt and only played 10 games. I worry he's going to continue to have injury issues. The competition, I think, will be brought in similar to the Colts competition between Richardson and Jones. I think it will be Kirk Cousins on the 1-year deal. $10 to $13 million contract to be brought in for the competition. Although with Derek Carr out there now, he might get a look as well, but he's going to want more money. The Vikings, I think, will give McCarthy every chance to win the competition because I think they still believe he can be their future long-term quarterback. Even if Cousins plays well in the preseason, if McCarthy is at least as good, and I think he'll be the starter. The Vikings have the offensive tools around the quarterback with elite wide receivers and a good running back. He may not play every game, but I think he'll be a lot better than he was last year. So that's number 3 is McCarthy. Number 2, Ewers. And I like Ewers. I think I watched him play a couple of games against the Patriots. You know, the Patriots were on a roll then, and the Dolphins don't have many tools around the quarterback. So he only played the 3 games after Tua was benched, and the Dolphins cleaned house, firing the head coach and the GM. The new leadership from Green Bay, I think they want to get off Tua, and we've talked about that the last show. But it's going to cost them a fortune. They might like to bring in someone like Malik Willis, but I don't think they're going to be able to afford it. So I think 2026 for the Dolphins is going to be a rebuild year for Miami, and they will trade Waddle and Hill. Maybe they won't trade Waddle. Maybe they'll hang on to him, but Hill is gone for sure. And only our chain will be the other good player on offense that will be retained. I think this will be Ewers' chance to, and he'll make the most of it, building on his promising performance the last 3 games of 2025. So I got him at number 2. And my number 1 pick is Jaden Daniels. He only played 7 games because of the injuries in 2025. He had the Rookie of the Year performance in 2024, leading the Commanders to the NFC Championship game. McLaurin was hurt most of this past 2025, and Deebo Samuels, I think, was a huge disappointment. The plan for the Commanders, as I understand it, is to get younger and faster in 2026. They made a big coaching overhaul. They have a new OC in David Blau and a new DC in Devontae Jones. I don't know why they fired Cliff Kingsbury. I think that was a mistake. And how will Jaden Daniels adjust to David Blau? I think that's a big question. Their roster strategies to improve the defense, younger, faster, targeting a pass rusher, linebacker, safety, and cornerback. They basically need everything. They have cap space of about $90 million that gives them an opportunity to reshape the team. They should be building around Jaden Daniels. If he stays healthy, he's got the talent. I think that he'll be the biggest improvement over 2020, his performance in 2025, which ranked very low.
I don't disagree with any of these. I think obviously the shock is Quinn Ewers. You're having him as like a starting quarterback next year. You think he's going to have this big boom or whatever. That's certainly something. J.J. McCarthy, he needs to have a boom. Otherwise, he's not going to be a starting quarterback next year. And Jaden Daniels, I feel like that's a nice cop-out pick because he was hurt. He's already a great quarterback, made the NFC Championship a couple years ago. So fair point to you. You know, more power to you.
Biggest bounce.
Right,
I think he's got the
going
potential.
from injured to healthy, that's already a good start.
Yeah, well, he did play 7 games.
Right.
So
very fair.
But, you know, his QBR was down there, so he can improve on that a lot. But they got to bring some tools in around him, that's for sure. And I don't know what they're going to do about Deebo Samuels. That guy is falling off a cliff. He is not, you know, remember the game against the Packers in the frozen tundra? He was the reason they won. He was a big reason they won that game. And he got a big contract after that. And then he fizzled. So I don't know what they do about that. McLaurin being back will be a big help to Daniels. He's a big playmaker. Running back, who did the Commanders have at running back?
Krosky Merritt.
All right.
Austin Eckler got hurt. I don't know if he'll be back next year.
Yeah. So they're going to go young. They're going to try. They're taking risks here. They want to get, you know, younger, faster, new ideas with new coaching. But I do think Cliff Kingsbury is a good offensive mind and did very well with Daniels when he was healthy. So I don't know why they fired him.
Well, my question to you is, I'll throw us out here. Let's say the Vikings sign Russ. Would he be on this list?
Russell Wilson?
Yeah. Would he be on this list?
His stats, I looked at him, his stats. I just didn't think anybody would pick him up. I think
it's hard to look at stats for this past year.
I know, but I mean, they were horrible. His QBR was awful.
Because he was bad.
Yeah. So why would anybody want him?
No, just hypothetically, if this is a competition.
His best move would be to retire. I really think. I don't know why he keeps trying to play. He doesn't have it. He's gone. He's over the hill. He's had it. I don't think anybody's going to want him.
I would agree with that. That's what I've been on for years.
Maybe he'd be a third stringer or something, a backup to the backup. I don't know.
He doesn't want
but
that.
I don't see anybody really. Who would want him? I don't think the Vikings would want him.
A nice veteran, a team that needs veteran leadership. Maybe go to.
Well, that's what the Giants needed last. That's what he failed at that.
I think Jameis Winston was a better veteran leader than Russ was.
Yeah.
I mean, don't think about it. Arizona could probably bring him in if they're going to get a quarterback early in the first round.
Why wouldn't they take Jameis Winston instead? Jameis Winston's going to be available. I would take him.
Is Jameis down on a 2-year deal with the Giants? I thought he might be on a 2-year deal.
Maybe staying with them. I don't know.
I would keep Jameis if I'm.
I would too.
He nearly beat the Packers and the Lions.
Yeah.
If the defense didn't collapse, both those were 1-score games. One of them, I believe, went into overtime.
He scored a touchdown. He caught a pass and scored a touchdown.
Right. So again, I think this list is interesting. I don't disagree with really any of it. Again, the Quinn Ewers thing, you're expecting him to be a starter, which is
I think he will be because because of the financial situation of the Dolphins and the fact that they can tank this year, really. And nobody will.
With Jeff Hafley?
People won't. Hafley won't get fired if he tanks, and neither will a GM. They can argue for a rebuild year and get some draft picks and the Tua deal. Get rid of him, start fresh, and I think Ewers would have the opportunity. Be handed to him. He could see what he could do.
Well, I think that again, this is very hopeful. The reason you have J.J. McCarthy out there is saying that he's a competent quarterback in the NFL. And you think he's going to go from terrible to what? Is this passable?
He's going to be, I think they'll.
For this.
I think the best for him would be
2027, you're the starter.
Upper level game manager type quarterback, But Justin Jefferson isn't going to be happy if he's getting the ball a lot.
I would agree. Well, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's just team success. Because he's had games where he's had 4 catches, 1 catch, 3 targets.
Yeah.
I think for him, I mean,
he had to scramble to get 1,000 yards.
He's much better than A.J. Brown when it comes to his team because A.J. Brown is pissy when they win games and he doesn't get a lot of targets. He keeps his mouth shut when he gets his 100 yards and a touchdown and they lose. And then he complains about the passing game and how it needs to improve. Justin Jefferson, I showed some of the quarterbacks before. He's had some really, really bad quarterbacks that have thrown him the football. You don't really hear much about that. So I think in that regard, I don't really – I feel bad for Justin Jefferson because he hasn't really complained about the lack of quarterbacks that he's had or lack of consistent
Well, why would he
play.
complain about Sam Darnold? Sam Darnold had a great season with
but having
him.
Max Brosmer, Jaron Hall.
Yeah, but that all happened last year.
No, the Pastronaut was a couple years ago. Carson Wentz, J.J. McCarthy. Again, it just depends. Like I'm surprised he hasn't been as upset as I would expect from.
Well, he had good seasons with Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball.
Right, exactly. So there have been a few quarterbacks, but ultimately,
how much can he complain? He's the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, there's only so much you can complain
Well, tell
about.
that to Myles Garrett, who's the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, and he's still complaining. Oh no, he's second. Sorry, now that Micah passed him, but he was complaining about $40 million, or he's complaining about the Browns' success making $40 million a year.
Who did I pick last year? I'm trying to think. It was
Bryce Young was on that list.
Okay, and he improved a lot.
I would need to go back in the archives.
No, it was Bryce Young was the one that I picked number 1 because he had such a horrible. His rank, his stats were just awful.
Well, yeah, and
I think he probably did have the biggest improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, he made the playoffs.
We need to keep this list so next year we can look and see if any of it came true.
Yeah,
because I do think I was right on Young.
Was it 2025 we did that? I know it was somewhat recently. I thought it might have been 2024.
Maybe. Time goes by quickly.
No, it would have been 2025. Yeah, it would have been 2025.
Yeah, so Bryce Young.
Yeah, and then he got benched for 3 games last year. Not this past year, but the year before. That was the bounce year. Yeah, the 2024-5 season.
No.
Yes, because he got benched.
No,
yeah.
I was right this year.
It took you a little while, but I think you are right. He finally figured it after getting benched. He figured it out.
I still think there's question marks with him.
Did you have Anthony Richardson on that list? I have a funny. You may have had Anthony Richardson,
but just because I went and picked the ones that
you're
had
a hopeful guy.
Very worst ranks.
You're a very, very hopeful
when
person.
the bar is set so low.
You can only go up.
You can only go up, So
but
here's
the sad thing, though. Anthony Richardson kept finding new lows. He can't complete a pass. In this case, I do think that all of these quarterbacks can find levels of success. Quinn Ewers, the Dolphins, you have to figure out everything. You have a new head coach. You have a new GM. You don't know what you're doing with Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle was in trade discussions at the trade deadline last year. Devon Achane is the only bright spot of that offense. The offensive line needs a lot of work, and the defense underperformed.
It's going to be hard.
When it comes to the Vikings, you had a great defense, but no real good running game. Your run defense was surprisingly lackluster, and you had J.J. McCarthy, Max Brosmer, Carson Wentz at quarterback. So, again, quarterback play was terrible. And Jaden Daniels, if you're healthy, you're about a mile ahead of the other 2 guys because that's all. That was the number one thing is just health.
Do you think there's any other quarterbacks? I mean, I have my list.
Yeah, I think that one of them is going to be interesting that I just don't think is going to work.
Shedeur Sanders.
That's the one I was going to say. Shedeur Sanders.
I just don't think he's going to play.
Well, here's the thing. Even if he does play, again, people are complaining about it's the Cleveland Browns, Kevin Stefanski, sabotage. And I've said this repeatedly. Hey, guys, maybe, just maybe, let's go back to the numbers. Shedeur fits into the category with the 41 quarterbacks and the worst franchise since 2000, that kind of thing. Maybe it's not Kevin Stefanski.
9.
Right. Maybe it's not Kevin Stefanski. Maybe it's the fact that it's literally the worst team since 2000. Literally. Dead last in wins.
No.
So I think that it's not Kevin Stefanski necessarily. He's not sabotaging Shedeur Sanders. No.
Kyler Murray.
It's the Cleveland Browns. No. Because Kyler Murray either stays in the Cardinals and rots again, and Jacoby Brissett beats him out, or he goes to the Jets and rots because Jets is a graveyard for quarterbacks.
Tua.
Again, health. That's my big. You have to play in a timing system. You cannot have a pure drop back system. I'm not sure where
Tua goes. Who are they going to find as a partner
Cardinals.
for him?
Cardinals. Go to LaFleur's offense.
I don't think he's any better than Jacoby Brissett.
Well, that's why you would have a competition for that, or you draft the
But
quarterback.
you have to pay a lot to get. You have to take on a lot.
No. For the Dolphins, they're trying to get off them, so they're going to eat up a bunch of that just to say we want to get rid of them.
Cam Ward, 33.2.
Cam Ward improved over the course of the season.
Yeah, he was ranked number 17.
That's a little bit surprising. I know. Here's what I think that is the obvious pick that we don't really think about, but if we're talking about who did bad last year and who will be better, Patrick Mahomes. I do think that we have to look at that. Patrick Mahomes is definitely.
But he was ranked in the top 12. I think he was ranked 12.
He played very poorly, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think Caleb Williams needs to work on his completion percentage. Jalen Hurts, I think, needs to be on there as well. There were games where the offense
He was ranked 16.
The offense was scoreless in halves, not quarters, not drives, halves.
Yeah, but it's more than just him on the offensive side.
I would agree. Offensive line was a mess. Saquon wasn't efficient.
A.J. Brown was a motor mouth.
That's true. Yeah. Jared Goff was pretty good this year, not great. Baker Mayfield, I think he collapsed over the last 13 games of the season.
He's the reason they didn't make the playoffs.
He was statistically one of the worst quarterbacks
since
week 5.
They lost 7 of the last 9. In 4 of those games, they could have won.
Oh, absolutely. Brock Purdy just needs health. Sam Darnold just won the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford was the MVP. Geno Smith's not going to be there. So we can't say Geno Smith because
he's just not going to play. I looked at him. He's just not going to play.
Justin Herbert, again, we could look at health as well of him and his offensive line.
He had a decent season. He was ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Bo Nix was completely fine.
Bo Nix is fine.
Daniel Jones, health. He tore his ACL and played on a, fractured tibula, I think it was.
The Colts need to do something about their offensive line.
C.J. Stroud needs to start off hotter because he got better, but then in the playoffs he put up a 4 turnover game. Trevor Lawrence he would have been a great pick last year if we did it. I
looked at Mac Jones, but the 49ers aren't going to get off him, right? They're going to keep him.
Supposedly you can get a second or third round pick for Mac Jones, which I would take. Lamar. Again, like
Lamar had good stats when he was in there. His passer rating is over 100.
Early in the season, that really carried it. The last, few games, it was not pretty whatsoever. But that's the difficult thing. When we talk about boom quarterbacks or the bounce quarterback, we think about the bad quarterbacks that we're seeing improving, not about good quarterbacks that had a down year. So I do think that, Joe Burrow, for health reasons, that would be a bounce just strictly on health.
His stats were good when he was in there.
Well, he did lose to the Ravens badly.
Well, that was
by the Ravens.
I don't know what happened
bad
there.
Defenses.
No.
Josh Allen was fine. Drake May, again, schedule May. Justin Fields would be out there, but again, is he going to be the starting quarterback next year?
He may not even be in the NFL next year.
Wow. That's a hot take.
Right? Who's going to pick him up? Who's going to pick up Justin Fields?
Here's what I think.
He's going to be released.
He's going to be a backup somewhere, probably. Here's what I think. From my pick, I agree with your list. I do think it's a very, very sound list. I do think Shedeur Sanders needs to be there because
I just think he's going to play.
People were absolutely pounding the table. Start Shedeur. He had one good game against a team that I said all year, even before Shedeur got out there and played him, wasn't an NFL franchise, and that was the Tennessee Titans. So I didn't move any goalposts. I wasn't being unfair. No, you lost to the Tennessee Titans. The worst franchise last year. That's really bad. And he didn't play particularly well. No. He had one of the lowest QBRs in the NFL.
18.9.
18. That's abysmal. It's a scale of 0 to 100.
I mean, he had a pretty good chance. 8 games. That's pretty good.
People thought he should have been out there week 1.
The only thing positive for him is he did win some games. There were some wins under him. Maybe it wasn't because of him, but at least they did win when he was playing, so he has that going for him.
True.
That didn't happen with any of the other quarterbacks they played.
That's true. Both the other quarterbacks combined did not have as many wins as Shedeur did, so that is fair. I do think their running game needs to be healthier. Their offensive line is abysmal. Their defense, while it was really good against the pass, ultimately though gave up a lot of points. The offense was really, really bad though. So there you go. We'll keep that in the record book. We'll come back to it during the season, I'm sure, to see if Quinn Ewers is actually a starter. If J.J. McCarthy isn't a bust.
2 years ago I picked.
I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah. Well, hey, better late than never. Bryce Young, he did something.
Back then was a question mark of whether he was even going to, succeed.
He got benched for Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, well, that does wrap up today's topic and today's episode of the Harvey Hour. We thank you for the constant support, as always. We'll be back on Tuesday to discuss more NFL rumors. There's a lot going on in the NFL universe. NBA All-Star Weekend is this weekend. It's going to be great to watch. The world versus the United States.
Lumber up and down the court and just throw up threes. That's what it is now.
Oh boy, and NBA is falling apart over here. We'll talk some more football on Tuesday's show, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been your co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. You can catch us Tuesday around 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Good night, Grandpa.
Using Wi-Fi without NordVPN could mean sharing your private stuff with more people than you think. Stay safe on public Wi-Fi. Get NordVPN's special offer and encrypt your internet connection. NordVPN. Online security